Over the last century, a single stretch of the North Atlantic has claimed thousands of lives, swallowing dozens of ships and aircraft without a trace. Look at this map. If you draw a line from Miami out to the island of Bermuda, down to Puerto Rico, and back again, you outline a massive 500,000 square mile expanse of open water. In March of 1918, the USS Cyclops, a massive Navy collier carrying over 300 men and 10,000 tons of manganese ore, sailed right into this zone. It vanished. No wreckage was ever found, and no distress signal was ever sent. When a massive 542-foot steel ship simply ceases to exist, it leaves an informational vacuum. And when that happens again and again in the exact same stretch of water, people start looking for explanations that defy the laws of physics. On December 5, 1945, 5 Navy Avenger torpedo bombers, known as Flight 19, took off from Fort Lauderdale for a routine 3-hour navigation exercise. They never returned to base. Radio operators on the ground intercepted panicked transmissions from the flight leader. He reported that both of his compasses had failed, that he had no idea where they were, and that the ocean below them looked strange, like white water. The military immediately scrambled a massive PBM Mariner flying boat with a 13-man crew to search for the lost squadron. Barely 20 minutes into its mission, that rescue plane also disappeared from radar. Losing one flight of planes is a tragedy. Losing the rescue team sent to find them on the exact same night looks like a pattern. It was enough to push the public imagination toward the extreme: bizarre time warps, underwater alien bases, and portals to other dimensions. But the concept of a cursed zone didn't actually exist during those historical tragedies. The term Bermuda Triangle was invented in 1964 by a pulp magazine writer named Vincent Gaddis, and later popularized by author Charles Berlitz in the 1970s. These writers built a highly profitable cottage industry by cherry-picking facts. They compiled lists of missing ships and planes, conveniently leaving out crucial details, like violent hurricanes, inherently flawed ship designs, or explosive cargo that had a habit of igniting at sea. Science fiction authors and tabloid journalists engineered this mystery, realizing a paranormal puzzle sells significantly more books than a tragic weather report. Let's look at this diagram. It illustrates the concept of the agonic line. For centuries, navigators have had to account for magnetic variation, because a compass points to magnetic north, not true geographic north. Along the agonic line, which runs right through this part of the Atlantic, those two poles actually align perfectly. If a navigator in the early 20th century didn't realize they were crossing this specific threshold, their compass needle would appear to shift unexpectedly, creating what seemed like a localized magnetic anomaly. Add to that the physical reality of the Gulf Stream. This massive, warm water current behaves like a fast-moving river within the ocean. If a ship sinks or a plane crashes here, the current can rapidly sweep the debris miles away from the initial distress location, while the sandy seafloor quickly buries whatever heavy wreckage sinks to the bottom. When we re-examine Flight 19 with this physical context, the story changes. Military records show the flight leader had a documented history of becoming geographically disoriented. He mistakenly flew his squadron out over the open Atlantic until they ran out of fuel. And that rescue plane? The PBM Mariner was notoriously flammable, nicknamed the flying gas tank by its own crews. Witnesses on a nearby merchant ship actually reported seeing a mid-air explosion at the exact time and location the search plane vanished. This chart compares maritime accident rates across the world's busiest shipping lanes. When the insurance giant Lloyd's of London and the U.S. Coast Guard normalized the data for the sheer volume of traffic passing between Florida and Puerto Rico, they found that the accident rate here is perfectly average. The math doesn't lie. When you apply forensic science and statistical normalization, the extraterrestrials and time portals evaporate. What's left is a collection of ordinary, highly preventable maritime tragedies. Today, thanks to GPS, satellite imagery, and advanced weather tracking, mysterious vanishments are incredibly rare. Yet, despite decades of systematic debunking by naval authorities and oceanographers, the myth of the triangle is still going strong. To understand why, look at this scatter plot. The human brain is hardwired for pattern recognition. when we are presented with random, unconnected data points, like unrelated shipwrecks spread across decades, our minds automatically draw lines between them to form a cohesive, intentional shape. We do this because the alternative is terrifying. It is far more comforting to blame an invisible wormhole or a highly advanced alien civilization than it is to accept that nature is utterly chaotic and that the ocean can be wildly, indiscriminately lethal. The legend's survival illustrates how deeply cognitive bias and misinformation can take root once a narrative becomes familiar. That doesn't mean the waters off the coast of Florida are completely safe. The ocean is a vast, unforgiving environment where mechanical failures and extreme weather still cost lives, and where deep-sea trenches can hide a wreck for decades. Every day, maritime authorities and rescue teams navigate this exact corridor, dealing with rogue waves, shifting cargo, and human error. The triangle has transitioned into a cultural metaphor for the unexplained, existing more in our collective imagination than on any nautical chart. Maybe the Bermuda Triangle's greatest mystery is why we still want to believe in it.